Hey there, hi there, ho there.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our Sunday night offering of Astronomy Outreach for March the 19th, right? 19th, yes.
Yes.
Sunday Astronomy Show. Yay!
What's tomorrow? What's tomorrow? What's tomorrow?
We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Don't give away my talk now. Gee,
All right. Never mind.
my what's up? Quiet. Shh.
All right, never mind.
All right. My name is Chris Kerwin. I'm your host this evening and creator of the social media channels known as Astronomy by the Bay. I'm an amateur astronomer and member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada.
Hey.
One of them shows. There we go. All right.
I'm sorry, that one got me.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to welcome back our two regular co-hosts of the program, Mr. Paul Owen from the Moon Shadow Observatory in beautiful Hampton, New Brunswick. Good evening, Paul.
Hello.
Hey. It's just not the same.
Regular co-host here in the program, Mr. Mike Powell from the PFO Observatory here in beautiful St. John. Welcome, Mike.
Hello.
Now, on tonight's episode of the Sunday Night Astronomy Show, constellations are the road maps of the night sky. They give us a place to start when we're trying to find all those night sky treasures. Concentrating on one section of sky each night can help you find your way around. And to help you do that, we just happen to have a local expert in recognizing those constellations and providing a bit of interesting legends behind them. That gentleman's name is Kurt Nason, a member of the St. John Astronomy Club and Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, New Brunswick chapter, and he is joining us again tonight with this monthly
Hey.
welcome, Kurt.
Hi, everybody.
Waka, waka, waka.
Hey, everybody. Okay, thanks for joining us, Kurt. Also tonight, Mike will bring back Vinyl Bud for another fine binocular target of the week. Paul will be introducing another Rosanna's fun fact for us to enjoy. I'll have a quick look at what to watch for in the coming week, except besides clouds. It does look like cloud most of the week, didn't it?
No, actually, the first 3 days we're going to get a bit of a reprieve.
Oh, reprieve meaning we're getting cloud or we're not getting cloud?
Sun and mix. So it's a mix of clouds for the first 3 days and then more precipitation.
Just in time for the moon contest. There must be a moon contest coming up.
There must be something coming up.
Okay. We will have all of your wonderful photos to share as well. And I'll be talking a little bit about the upcoming moon contest coming up, Shoot the Moon contest. So this is the family-friendly interactive live broadcast. So for those of you joining us from my YouTube channel or Facebook page, we are happy to try and answer all of your astronomy questions. Kurt's happy to try and answer all of your astronomy questions in real time.
Yes.
And of course, we'd like to welcome back all of those who have been joining us through the local Rogers TV network. Thank you for your support. Okay, so good evening, everybody on YouTube and Facebook. We're both up. That's great. So let's get started then with tonight's program and a look at the constellation of Hydra. Kurt, you're up.
Hydra.
That's what they don't have in Nova Scotia half the time. Oh, sorry, that's hydro.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Two comedians here with us tonight. Kind of comedians.
Okay, Hydra the water snake, female. And make that distinction because a few hundred years ago, somebody had devised a male water snake called Hydrus, or constellation in the southern hemisphere, which the head of that one goes down to the south celestial pole. So we don't see it at all. But it's the largest constellation in the sky, and something like 100 square degrees, all told. And you can see it's a long, snaky thing, which long snakes tend to look like. And it's a water snake. And it takes about 8 hours for it to rise. That's how big it is. And you see it's coming up at a bit of a slant there. So it'll rise up face first down in the, say, the southeastern horizon, and keep coming up like that. And then just like all the constellations do as the night wears on, like Orion comes up on the side and he's standing upright and starts to lean over. So the water snake comes up at an angle, then starts to come over like that. And so the whole thing would take up pretty much from southeast to southwest horizon. Then it only takes a few hours to set. So it's like a whale breaching. You come up out of the water, they come down in a big splash like that, except we don't get water. You probably get meteors from that. So this one, you see there's constellations around it. We've got Leo the Lion just above it. One of the newer constellations, Sextans. Hard to see anyway. And speaking of hard to see, we've got the old one here, Cancer, made of dim stars, but from a dark sky, you can pick them out. And it's trailing behind Canis Minor here, and the other one you can't see, the Monoceros. And on its back, we've got two things here. There's a cup called Crater and Corvus the Crow. Now, I'm going to tell a few stories dealing with Hydra. Now, a couple of them will deal with Hercules, and they also bring in Leo the Lion and Cancer the Crab. And another one story about them I'll tell a little bit later on would be Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow. So they're all related there in a ways. And Canis Minor here plays a role as well in one of those Hercules stories, but not as a dog. Now, it doesn't have that very many bright stars. It does have one first magnitude star. This brightest one here is Alphard, which means solitary one, because it's the only bright star pretty much in that area around there. We've got Regulus is up above here, but in around here, this one really stands out because there's nothing else to rival it. And the other ones are all like third, fourth, fifth magnitude, probably more fourth and fifth. All right, so we'll get into one of the stories here. This is a couple of stories about Hercules. It was, of course, the illegitimate son of Zeus, and Zeus's wife Hera did not particularly like him or that situation, but there were many situations like that in mythology. And she was always looking to have Hercules put away, but he was the strongest guy in the world and hard to put under. She had put him under a spell at one time. He'd gone mad and he'd killed his family. And so as retribution for that, he was made to live with the guy Eurystheus. He was a king of the land. And the king's brother is actually the stepfather of Hercules. And Hera had him give Hercules 10 labors to do, hoping that any one of them would kill him. Right? So his first labor they had to do was to kill the Nemean lion. So this lion up here was made on the moon by one of the goddesses, and he jumped down to the earth and was living up in the hills of Nemea. Man-eating lion or person-eating lion. And anybody to go up to kill it, they couldn't, because the lion's skin was so thick that nothing would penetrate it. So Hercules went up and strangled it. He found the cave for it, blocked the cave in, and had a big fight with it, and eventually killed it. And he cut the skin off using the lion's claws and used that for a shield. So a lot of movies you'll see Hercules with a lion skin on his back and like the lion's head up over him for a hat. So that was the first one he had to do. Now his second labor was to kill the Hydra, which was a monster. There are different versions of it. Some people have it as a dog with 3 heads or many more heads. Some will have it as a snake-like monster living in the swamp of Lerna, which was near the city of Argos. And usually it's 9 heads. I've read 3, I've read 99, I've read more. The thing about it, to kill that the Hydra, of its 9 heads, you had to cut all the heads off. But if you cut one off, 2 more grew in its place. So they had one of those heads was mortal or immortal. So that one had to be killed. That was probably the last one you'd had to get. So Hercules went to fight the Hydra. And he had his nephew with him, Iolaus. And his nephew was the guy that drove his chariot for him. So Hercules went to kill the Hydra. And the Hydra was poisonous. Its blood was poisonous, and it was a very ferocious monster. And Hercules knew that if you cut one head off, 2 more grow in its place. Some mythology has him with a sword cutting it off, but typically he would have a club. So in this version of it, he's got his club. So he's starting to fight the Hydra. He knocks the head off, and 2 more grow in its place, so it makes it a little more difficult. So after a few more heads get knocked off and more grow in, Iolaus has the idea of took a big stump and set it to fire. And as soon as one head get knocked off, Hercules would take the burning stump and cauterize that wound, so 2 more heads wouldn't grow. So over a long period of time, he would knock off a head, they take the stump, get it off there, and eventually it came down to the last head, the immortal one, and he knocked that head off too with the club, and then they buried that head under a rock, so it wouldn't get out. And so eventually then he did kill the Hydra. Now while he was fighting it, Hera was watching this from Mount Olympus, and she saw that Hercules might have an advantage here. So she sent a crab in to distract him. So the crab come up to pinch his heels there. So that happened. He just looked at it and stomped it. So that's why we have Cancer the crab up here in the sky, along with the Hydra water snake here. And there's a story. There's like in summertime when the head first starts to come up above the horizon. This is just before the sun. The sun is actually around Cancer at that time when this story started. Now it'd be more toward the say Gemini or into Taurus, probably into Gemini or just getting into Cancer. And they would say that just you see this constellation coming up just before the sun rises, and that's Hercules killing the first head. So in times after that, a few weeks later, the sun's moving through here, and one by one, he would knock those heads off. So over several months, what's rising just before the sun would be one of the heads that he knocks off, and it sort of represents this long battle they had with the Hydra. So that was that story. Now there's another one that came after that. When Hercules finished his 10 labors, most of you thinking, I read there were 12. Well, there was only 10 that started off there. But after he did the 10, Boethius had told him, 2 of those you didn't do on your own. Now with this one here, the second one, he had some help from Iolaus. So that one didn't count. And the other one he had was when he had to clean up the stables of this huge stable with oxen and a big mess in there from several months of not being cleaned. And he cleaned that by changing the direction of a river that he ran it through the barns. And Iolaus said, or the Boethius said, no, you didn't do that by yourself either. So he was given 2 more labors to do. So his 11th labor, well, there's the Hydra for any of that like to count the pictures. There are only like 7 or 8 heads there. A couple are hiding inside. His other one is here. His 11th one, they have the golden apples in the garden of the Hesperides. Now the Hesperides were 3 young maidens. They were daughters of Atlas, and they represented the west, the sunset there. So they're responsible for the golden glow of the sun out there. So it's just quite far removed from Greece in those areas. The Atlas Mountains were in Africa, and this is roughly where this garden was. This is Hera's garden. She had a very long garden. So as a wedding present for Zeus and Hera, Gaia, the goddess of the earth, gave her this tree that grew golden apples. And so Hercules' 7th or 11th labor was to go out and steal those apples. The Hesperides there were to make sure that people didn't take those apples, but Hera didn't entirely trust them. So she had this monstrous snake there, actually it was a dragon, And stories that this one had maybe 99 heads. This dragon never slept. It always kept watch over the golden apples. Now, golden apples, there might be a story behind that. There is a thought that this is actually an orange tree, and they didn't have orange trees in areas of Greece. It's not back then. And so the different color of them made people think they were golden apples. So Hercules had to go actually first find the Garden of the Hesperides and then steal the golden apples, which means he'd have to kill that dragon. So he went off in search. He visited a couple of people and helped them out, and they gave him some directions roughly where to go. Eventually, he wound up to see Atlas. So Atlas is a guy, he's a Titan, and his penance for fighting the Olympians was he had to hold up the sky. And there are two versions of this story. One was that he told Hercules where to find it, and Hercules went and killed the dragon and stole the apples and brought them back. But the one that's most often told was that Atlas said, "No, I won't let you go get the apples." He said, "But I know where they are. I'll go get them for you." So Hercules, if you hold up the sky. So Hercules agreed to that. So he held up the sky while Atlas went off, got the golden apples. The Hesperides were his daughters anyway. So he came back with the apples, and he said, "Well, I'll do you a favor. I'll take these back to Eurystheus and give them to him for him, for you." Hercules knew if he did that, then that wouldn't count as his labor. Right? He'd have to do another one. So he said, "No, I'll take him back." But and they had a little battle about that, a little argument. Eventually, said, "Oh," Hercules agreed to it. They said, "But first of all," I said, "this is hard on my shoulder. You hold the sky here for a second, and I kind of adjust my cape to give me a little bit more padding there." So Atlas agreed to that, and Hercules grabbed the apples and took off and left Atlas holding the bag in the sky at the same time there. So Hercules went back and turned in the apples to Eurystheus, and since they belonged to a goddess, they had to be given back anyway. So there's another version of the of Hydra, and here's the mulberry bush in this particular story. It's the one with the golden apples, and the golden apples in here, this area here. Part of it's up here in Cancer, but this is Canis Minor in here, and this big bright apple in here has Procyon. And so we'll jump out of mythology for a bit and look at some of the deep sky objects we can see here in Hydra. And there are a few. We've got one that I'm not going to count just as belonging to it. I will count, but it's actually part of Virgo. But we've got the galaxy here, M83. We've got Globular Cluster, M68. And I'm going to talk a little bit about M104 as well. And also in here, just off the screen, we've got one of the finest FNGCs, the one from the Caldwell catalog. Right, so M83, you can see where it was, down in here off the tail. So we got a star down here and a star here, that's Gamma, and that's Eta, Hydra. So come in here, so here's Gamma Hydra, here's Eta. So the galaxy M83 in here takes a bit of a squashed triangle with them. And so you can see this is a 4 degrees here from the Telrad, so it's maybe about 8 degrees from Eta Hydra and maybe close to 12 from there. So if you sort of pick out those two stars, have an idea where it is, you can maybe land on that part of it. There's a picture of it there. And this is a famous galaxy this time of year. It's fairly low in the south, declination minus 29. This would be the last one that people would normally get in the Messier Marathon, which is just starting this week because we got a new moon coming up on Tuesday. So it should be the week that typically people would do their Messier Marathon. And any place pretty much north of, say, latitude 40 degrees, M83 is pretty much impossible to get because you cannot pick it out of twilight. I have people here in New Brunswick. I know one person in particular, Paul Gray, he had picked out 109 of the 110 Messier objects, but he couldn't get that one. That's M83, M68 over here. So here's the Praz. It's in Corvus the Crow. So it's the 4 big stars there, making a trapezium. So this is that one here, and you can see it's just a little bit less than 4 degrees almost south of it here. So that was fairly easy to pick up. You get that star, and you just drop down about 4 degrees, and it's there pretty much in the middle of your eyepiece. Magnitude 7.7, so it's not too hard to get. Now, the finest NGC is NGC 3242. Now, in the RASC handbook, there's the finest NGC objects, 110 of them, devised by Alan Dyer. And it's a great one to go through. If you've already done the Messiers, this is a good one to try. It's also number 59 in Patrick Moore's Caldwell catalog. And so here's the crater in here. There's the base of it on the back of the snake. So here we've got New Hydra and Mu Hydra. Yeah, this is New Hydra and Mu Hydra here. So just coming off about 2 degrees from Mu, you've got the planetary nebula in there. This is what it looks like. That's called the ghost of Jupiter. And some people call it the Eye Nebula. So that's a good one to try for. You've got the ghost of Jupiter. You've also got the Saturn Nebula, which is also another planetary nebula off near Capricornus, just above it. And I'll go to this other one. It says not actually part of Hydra, but it's pretty close to Corvus, who's sitting on Hydra's back. And I always use, if I want to look at this one, I use Corvus as the jump off point for this. And so you can, one way to do it, you go to the bottom right to the upper left, just a little bit to the right of the upper left star there, and continue up that way. At the same distance, you get M104, the Sombrero galaxy, which is actually within the boundaries of Virgo. But I fell upon another way to get there, and there's actually a well-known star hop to get there. So you go up to the upper right star here, and you can see a string of stars up this way. And then we'll take you up here, and you see a little asterism in here called Stargate, and you can jump off from there to get to M104. So there's a Sombrero galaxy there. It's a fairly easy one to pick up with like a 6 to 8 inch telescope. And if you're lucky, you can even get the dust lane through the middle of it here. It makes it look like that Sombrero. And you can see how close they are here. Stargate's in this area here, and it's only about half a degree away from Sombrero. But there's show you this. Oh, did I get down the wrong area? Here's a Sombrero. Here we go. Okay, here's Corvus. Then you can see what's called a Crow Zero, that string of stars going up. And here's make the little arrowhead out of here. And there's the Stargate. So here's this off. This must be off Stellarium. Here's the Stargate in here from a science fiction TV series. So it makes a little arrowhead for you. So once you hit upon that, it's easy to see in binoculars. And it's sort of pointing this direction. And there's this little asterism in here as well. I called it the pointer. If you look at it, it's a miniature version of the constellation Sagitta. And that's pointing in this direction to the Sombrero galaxy. So you can pick that one up in binoculars, follow that arrow to the pointer, and then down to the galaxy. All right, we're back to here at another story. This one works into Crater and Corvus as well. And now, Corvus was it's a crow or a raven, a corvid. And in this story, it was a pet of Apollo, who was driving the sun chariot across the sky by day. And this was a beautiful white bird with a beautiful singing voice, and a good pet of Apollo. And just like a puppy dog, Apollo would give him things to do and do it for him. So after driving the sun across the sky can be pretty thirsty work. So at one time, Apollo was very thirsty. So he gave his pet bird this cup and said, "Go to the river and get me a drink of water and bring it back. I'm really thirsty." So the bird takes the cup in claws, the talons, and flies off. And he comes to the river, but he sees that there's a fig tree by the river. And he's there and he looks at it and I'm pretty hungry. And he looks at the figs and they're not quite ripe. He says, I'll wait for them. Bird didn't have a very good memory. So he waited a couple of days until the figs got ripe. Then he ate them all up and got satisfied there. Then he remembered he was supposed to bring the water back to Apollo. So he grabbed the cup, dipped it in the river, and took off back, thinking mentally, he says, I'm going to be in trouble for this. I got to have an excuse. So when he come back, Apollo had his drink and he was really angry at the bird for being late. And the bird said, well, there's this big snake down by the river that wouldn't let us get the cup. I had to wait 2 days for it to go away. Well, Apollo didn't buy that. So he turned that beautiful white bird, gave it black feathers, and gave it the really horrible, scratchy voice. So anybody heard crows or ravens, you know what that voice is. And then as a final bit of a punishment for it, he took went out and found the snake and threw the snake, the cup, and the crow up into the sky. So the cup and the crow were on the back of the snake. And Apollo had given the snake an order that make sure that the bird doesn't get a drink of water, so it's always thirsty like I was thirsty. So you can see Corvus here, and there's a cup tipped over, but the bird can't reach the cup, so he's always thirsty. And that's the name of that tune. Now, the cup here, when I look at that, up here in Canada, we're all hockey fans pretty much. That looks to me like the Stanley Cup. And actually, there's a really good tie into that. Because when, here we go, here's the cup crater just rising in the evening sky. This is the evening twilight. And you see the date here, April 1st. This is about the time the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. There's the cup just coming into the sky, signifying late in the season, beginning of Stanley Cup playoffs are coming right up. And we skip ahead a few months. June 30th, and the Stanley Cup final can end pretty close to that date. And here in the Southwest, there's the crater, there's the Stanley Cup, ready to go down to signify the end of the NHL hockey season. You won't find that in any book. That's one from the unwritten book of new mythology by Nason. Maybe several years before we get that one. Okay, so other places saw that. Here's the head of Hydra, 3 versions of it. So in China, it was a willow branch, was a symbol of immortality. You can see there's the head there, the 4 or 5 or 6 stars. A couple of areas in India, one area saw it as a flag, and the other one saw it as potter's wheel. Now, let's go back. Here's what it is now. Here's Hydra. So see where it comes up. And right in here, this is the celestial equator. That's 0 degrees declination. Right, so we extend our equator's Earth up into the sky. This is where it would be. So we see where Hydra is here. Right, when it comes up, there's the head above it, but most of it is down below. Now, the constellations, most of them were developed maybe 5,000 years ago. So let's wind this back 5,000 years. And here we have it. There's the equator, celestial equator there. And Hydra is right along the equator. So the difference is doing again, almost every month I'm doing this, the precession of the equinox changing the orientation and the timing of the constellations up there. So we see Hydra is right along here. And that probably is what caught people's eye up there at that time. Okay, they'd have an idea of where that midpoint is, where it would be the celestial equator. This is passing along it like that. So it's more or less separating the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere in the sky. And at that time, Draco was pretty much wrapped around the north celestial pole, and it was delineating the northern area sky up there like that. Okay, so when you're looking at Hydra and all these other ones in here, then just sit back and do some naked eye sky gazing, and maybe just think about how things have changed in our place in the universe. So we're looking up and gazing at the stars like that, and maybe do ourselves just a little bit of navel gazing or so. And that's one way to do it. And that's a good place to do it.
Oh, I guess that's a black hole. Or the whirlpool galaxy. I don't know.
Is that apple tree, is that where they get the golden delicious?
Yeah.
Awesome talk, Kurt. Thanks for the
Yeah,
stories.
cool.
As always. Great stories.
Yes.
Kind of bad about that bird, though, not gonna be able to get a drink. Like,
Yeah, well, Cassiopeia and the Yeah, she's in the same boat, more or less.
True enough.
She,
Yeah.
Oh, well, he says, oh, well.
no, that's the bears that are in the same boat. They don't get down to the horizon to get a drink.
That's right.
Ursa Major and Ursa Minor.
I'm not,
Cassiopeia just flies upside down.
They
I'll
don't
not
want to
forget
be
your
there.
Stanley Cup story now.
Thanks so much, Kurt. Appreciate that. Looking forward to next month's Constellation of the Month as well. Great stories for sure. Okay, let's move on from there then to Albino Bud Talk. How's that?
I know what. I think it's this one. Should be coming up here.
Yep, there you be.
Ta-da! So, binocular target of the week this week by Bino Bud. Lately, I've been doing kind of like asterisms, but today or this week, I decided we're going to pick on some Messier objects and some clusters and things. So, binocular target of the week this week by Bino Bud is, but in today's world, where do I find that smudge you're calling M35? Texting from the moon, and I'll guarantee you they'll have a phone up there too when they go back. So M35, large open star cluster located in northern constellation Gemini. It's the only Messier object located in Gemini. M35 is 2,800 light years away from Earth, and a relatively young star cluster, as star clusters go, having formed about 100 million years ago. The cluster occupies a region of space that's roughly 24 light years in diameter, so she's a pretty big size for an open cluster. So how do I find it in the sky? Well, everybody can look up and see Orion. Well, I'm sure most people now recognize Gemini with the two bright stars, Castor and Pollux. We take Castor and follow that whole side down. M35 is right off his foot almost. Just like this. If you go on the Castor and count down 5 bright stars, and then off the toe, boom, you're going to hit M35. And this time of night, or at 9 o'clock, it's not quite straight up, but it's pretty darn close. I forgot to change that one to tonight. What will I see? Well, there's a nice open cluster right up in there. And if you were Paul watching this, you look over and he start going, oh, there's nebula in that area. I'm going to have to get those too. But M35 is a nice open cluster, easy to spot when you're sweeping that spot of the sky. In 10 by 50 binoculars, roughly this is what it's going to look like. So it's a nice, easy object. If you wanted to compare it to the full moon, this is a different one. It's about the same size as a full moon. So there you go. It's a nice, easy cluster to find. And after 3.5 hours of setup and aligning, what target do I look for? Doesn't that happen to everybody?
Isn't that true?
And that's Binocular Target of the Week by Bino Bud.
Like you're set up there, Paul.
Yeah, it's quite topical there, Mike. You're middle of next week, the 29th and 30th, Mars is going to be very close to M35.
Oh, right on.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
I should have put that in my WhatsApp doc. Sorry.
I should have waited a week.
That's next week's.
Oh, well, next week's okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good. Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Nice target. And kind of suits
It
the
Easy
going
to
forward.
spot.
Yeah. Okay, how about a Rosanna's fun fact next?
All right. Share screen there and do this and do that. And
This week's
yeah, it's going to find a music source.
drum roll, please.
There it is.
Dum, 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 dum.
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Welcome back, Rosanna, for another absolutely fun fact. And as always, very timely and, of course, very interesting. So let's get right into it. So Rosanna writes, hi, Paul. Most of the time, an amazing discovery is not an instant thing. Many discoveries that seem to occur surprisingly or overnight actually take years of dedicated perseverance. Just this week, scientists Robert Herrick and Scott Hensley, in a paper published in the journal Science on March the 15th, announced that they have discovered the first signs of active volcanoes on Venus. So, the findings confirm long-held suspicions, and we actually have the pandemic to thank, sort of. for this discovery. Back in the early 1990s, the spacecraft Magellan captured many images of Venus, and NASA distributed the the Magellan imagery on CD-ROMs. Back when Herrick was a grad student and then postdoc, most desktop computers were not powerful enough to load the large high-resolution radar images, forcing researchers to explore the Venetian surface one small slice at a time. Tedious to say, at the least. Now equipped with modern technology and a little extra time, thanks to the pandemic, Herrick went looking for changes that happened between overlapping Magellan radar passes. He likened it to looking for a needle in a haystack with no guarantee that there was a needle. To slim down the haystack, he focused on promising locations for volcanic activity. Unfortunately, much of Magellan's overlapping radar coverage was at different viewing angles, making it much harder to look for changes. The authors finally hit pay dirt north of Mat Mons and the tallest volcano on Venus. There, a circular volcanic vent with an area of 2.2 square kilometers or 0.8 square miles. In February of 1991, morphed by October 1991 into a vent with an area of 4.0 square kilometers or 1.5 square miles. Here are two images that triggered the aha, I found it moment. So you can see there's quite a change in the size of those. Although volcanic activity used to be rampant in the solar system, it is now rare. Other worlds have active volcanism, there we go, ice volcanoes. But Earth, Io, and now Venus are the only worlds currently known to have rocky lava spewing magic mountains. Checking on Earth's volcanoes, it surprised me to find that there are currently 47 in continuous eruption in status at this time. A really impressive eruption in January, the Hunga Tonga Ha'apals, yeah, water vapor touched space a few ever feet in human history, and it also set off a lightning blitz. If an alien satellite was checking out our planet, this is what it would have seen. So funnily enough, isn't that funny word? Funnily enough, when you're looking at these funnels. Funnily enough, Io's volcanoes are never where the interior's heating data projects them to be. This is Io's TVS star volcano. Whoops, hit the button here. There we go. So while I was gallivanting from volcano to volcano, I stumbled upon this image from NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory, which led to further wow discovery for me. So the colors in this image represent different levels of X-ray energy detected by Chandra. Here the lowest energy X-rays are red, the medium band is green, the highest energy X-rays are blue, and this image credit goes to NASA, CXC, Penn State, and B. Luo at A. I think that's what she's saying there. This image shows about 5,000 black holes over an area of sky covered by the full moon. The highest concentration of black holes ever seen. Impressive, but even more so is that the order to share the amazing universe of people who have vision issues, the Chandra team of visualization scientists have created a new album on how the X-ray Observatory images sound. Universal Harmonies is a collection of sonified observations taken by the Space Telescope. Now, before we get too far into that, I can't play it because I don't have Spotify. Tried downloading it, had difficulty. But I will leave those links with Chris, and he can put them on the site. And there's a couple of clips that Rosanna had sent to us, one for 23 seconds and the other for 44. But you can go onto this Universal Harmonies Chandra Lab site, and you can listen to all kinds of them. There's lots of clips there. I actually went on the site. So for fans of ambient music or just space, this is a fantastic album. And once again, we have the pandemic to thank, as a sonification of all of these images began as a way to connect with colleagues during isolation and expanded to try to connect to people with vision challenges. And of course, she's going to give us two examples. One is a supernova 1987A in multi-wavelength light, which again I can't play, but that's one of the ones we'll leave on the post. And the other one is Eta Carina. So you can listen to the whole album on Spotify, but I had to order one of the only 250 vinyl LP releases. It's estimated to be here by April the 2nd, and I can't wait. It will be brought to a club meeting and for a show and tell, and we're looking for that, Rosanna. That will be absolutely amazing to listen to. So that is this week's
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Hey,
Thank you so much, Rosanna. Now that
Thank you,
is
Rosanna.
pretty cool. That is some pretty deep research. And but the musical thing, out of all of that, the musical thing for people who can't see to be able to experience what's going on out there, that's a huge step, and I think that's just amazing. So
Love to get those links, Paul. Yeah, Paul send them to me after the show here, and I'll put them up on my Facebook page for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Rosanna.
Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're gonna go from that. Boy, there's a lot of research for that stuff.
Oh,
Really, really in depth. We're gonna go from there to What's Up Talk, I guess, maybe. What's Up Talk? Get my screen up here. I go through this all the time. Let me get the right screen up. There we go. I think. Okay. So we'll share my screen. Take a little look at what's going on this week. Here, maybe we're up.
we are.
Okay. All right. Hey, happy equinox. Thanks for not letting the cat out of the bag there, Paul. Okay. Let's take a little look. Monday, March the 20th, our spring equinox comes. Welcome, spring. First day of spring occurs tomorrow, and spring arrives at 6:24 p.m. Atlantic time. Now, there are two equinoxes every year, one in March and one in September. The March equinox is the moment the sun crosses the celestial equator. We talked about that earlier. An imaginary line in the sky above Earth's equator from south to north. The date the equinoxes and solstices varies because a year in our calendar does not exactly match the length of a tropical year, the time it takes Earth to complete an orbit around the sun. So welcome spring. We're all looking forward to it, except for those long days now. Oh well, can't win them all. Tuesday, our new moon. Kurt mentioned that as well. Along with the beginning of the new season, our moon also begins a new cycle this week. Now, the new moon arrives for us here in Atlantic Canada at 2:23 p.m. The moon is only new, of course, for an instant, and the new moon is not visible as it rests between us and the sun. By Wednesday evening, though, the moon will be a very slim crescent, less than 36 hours old at sunset. And always a nice challenge to try and witness. We've tried that a few times, Mike, and had some luck with it, eh? Past.
Yep.
That's
a sliver.
That's
that sliver.
Yep, very, very thin. On Wednesday evening, as I mentioned, the moon will be near Jupiter. Look for our waxing crescent moon with Earthshine. Won't be much Earthshine at that point, though. A little bit. As it greets the giant planet Jupiter, that's a very slim, razor thin, as Kurt mentioned, crescent. It'll be very slim moon, less than 2% illuminated on Wednesday evening. But still nice to see. Our waxing moon continues. Here's a morning challenge, though, for you. On Friday, the waxing crescent moon will be near Venus in our morning sky. Kurt brought that one up in his calendar, and I thought it was kind of interesting. The two objects will appear about 1.5 degrees apart, so it should make it pretty easy to find Venus once you find the waxing moon. Moving into Saturday, our waxing moon and Venus, lots of great photo ops happening this week. Looking to the west just after sunset Friday as our waxing crescent moon with Earthshine greets brilliant Venus, this time in our evening sky. You may have to look early to find Jupiter. It's getting quite near the horizon now after sunset. So, but still should be a nice sight there. Another nice photo op for sure. Saturday evening, the moon visits the Pleiades. All about the moon this week. Saturday evening, look to the west after sunset to enjoy a crescent moon as it greets a beautiful Pleiades star cluster in Taurus. Now, best viewed through binoculars, the Pleiades, also known as the Seven Sisters in M45, is what we call an asterism and an open star cluster containing middle-aged stars. Now, it lies about 444 light years from Earth, one of the nearest star clusters to us. And 1 light year is 10 trillion kilometers, so that's one of the nearest. Very close, really. All week long, Mars, Aldebaran, and Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, whatever you like to call it. Turn your eyes to the southwest skies all week long to witness reddish Mars, orange Aldebaran in Taurus, and even brighter orange Betelgeuse and Orion as they form a spectacular celestial triangle all week. There's still lots of wintertime targets to enjoy in our southern sky for a while yet. Orion's still up nicely. And Kurt mentioned the Messier Marathon. Well, the Messier Marathon is something that usually gets attempted this week through the new moon in March. Messier Marathon is an attempt usually organized by amateur astronomers to find as many Messier objects as possible during one night. This is the whole gamut of them over here on the right-hand side. The Messier catalog was compiled by French astronomer Charles Messier during the late 18th century, and it consists of 110 relatively bright deep sky objects, galaxies, nebula, and star clusters. The number of Messier objects visible in any one night varies depending on a few factors, now including the location of the observer, the duration of daylight and nighttime, and the season, or the positions of the Messier objects relative to the sun. It varies with the season. At low northern latitudes, particularly around latitude 25 degrees north, it is possible to observe all Messier objects in one night during a window of a few weeks from mid-March to early April. Now, in that period of time, the dark nights around the time of the new moon are the best for the Messier Marathon. So that's why we try for it now. Marathons are typically organized by a local astronomy organization or astronomy society as a special type of star party. Now, these are usually attempted at least once every year. Some clubs issue certificates or awards either for participating or for achieving a set number of objects. So a nice challenge. I've never attempted it myself, but something I've always wanted to do. Go from there to Lisa's Lookup, Astronomy and More. Lisa puts out this great chart. Lisa's joined us here this evening. Once a month, she puts out this chart about what's happening in their evening sky over the next month. She lists the events here on the left-hand side. The dates are listed in the middle. The peak times, the best times to view those events, and then what you need to view them with, naked eye, binoculars, or telescope. You can find Lisa's Lookup Astronomy More at Ruby Moonbeams on Instagram, Twitter, Mastodon, and Facebook. And from there, we're going to go to our St. John Astronomy Club, Royal Astronomical Society of Canada New Brunswick chapter calendar, which is made here by our very own Kurt Nason. Kurt puts out this calendar, excellent calendar every month. It lasts about almost 6 weeks, I guess. And in here, we list all the events that are happening throughout the month. So you can go to this calendar. You can download it at sjastronomy.ca. And that's all we got for this week coming up. Okay. And I'll stop sharing.
I had to be home when the streetlights come on.
I got a correction to make. I was just checking out there. M83 is not the one that's impossible to get. That's actually more in the middle of the night. The one in the galaxy there in Hydra. It's actually one of the Messiers in around Capricornus. It's just coming up in the morning.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, we're going to go from there to a few photos that we have this evening. Just have a few to go over. And I wanted to mention
I tried down a 5-fathom hole one night and I only got 92.
92. Still not bad. That's a lot though, still.
Tried down there about 20 years ago or so. And started off pretty good, and then spent a bit of a time hurriedly taking down my C8 because it was starting to snow.
No, here? I can't believe it.
Came out of nowhere.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's go to a few photos that we have for this evening. Let's start with this one here.
Oh, yeah.
This is from Derek King. Derek says, good morning, Chris. Hope all is well. He says, kids noticed the moon this morning, so I took some time to grab a photo or two using the scope and a cell phone. Of course, I let them have a first look as they were supposed to be getting ready for school. There you go. The quality isn't the greatest, but not too shabby for a shot through a dirty window. I wasn't prepared to venture outside, he says. Okay. Understood. Thanks, though, Derek. Appreciate that. He said, great show about the satellites last week. You guys always hit it into the stratosphere, and Rosanna's fun facts are always top notch. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. Thanks, Derek. I'm going to go from Derek's shot to Brad Perry's shot right here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So he said, just sharing this photo of the Milky Way center taken this morning shortly after 5 a.m. I tried using a 35 millimeter lens for a change, giving a tighter view. Look at the size of that pony. Look at the size.
Yeah, really.
Look at him right there. So pretty
That's
hard.
awesome.
So just turn your head to the left, I guess, and take a look there, and you'll see a big prancing pony.
Yeah.
Well done. Thanks, Brad.
Nice shot.
Always great shots. Bill Leonard sent this one in from South Germany at 7:05 Central Time. He said, hard to see, but it is Venus and Jupiter together. I do see Venus. I believe the other one might have both in it. There's right there. Yeah, they are a little difficult to see, but that's because of the daylight. But thanks for those anyway, Bill. But he did send along something else. I'm going to try to play that here in a second.
Oh, wow.
Hang on a sec. Get this back to the beginning. He said, I was sent these from a friend working in northern Alberta near Red Earth. I have myself worked in northern Alberta for the last decade and a half and never seen a show like this before. So he sent me a number of images, so I just put them in a little bit of a video here. So we'll just play that. I got any sound on this? I think I do. There.
Wow.
Can't complain about that.
Amazing, eh?
That mess up your Messier marathon, though. They are gorgeous.
Aurora. They are beautiful, aren't they? Yep.
Oh, man.
Well done. Thanks for sending those in, Bill. I'm going to go now to Bridget Green capture here. She said, I spent last weekend with a friend in New Richmond, the Gas Bay. Sunset over the bay was beautiful, she said. Thought I would share. So still a nice capture. Another one there.
Yes, sir.
This one here was for Mike. She said, I had some time on my hands, so meet Bino Buddet.
I love it. You have to send me that.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, that's great.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Bridget. Okay, so if you have photos that you'd like to share, please send them into astronomybythebay@gmail.com, and we'd love to have them on our program for you. Love to share. Okay, let's get on to talk a little bit about what's coming up next, though, is Astronomy by the Bay and Lift Valley Astronomy is now sponsoring another moon contest for us, another Shoot the Moon contest. This is his Sky Experience 2024, something that Stefan is setting up. This New Brunswick Eclipse Retreat coming up. His page goes live on Tuesday, so you can follow him at Cliff Valley Astronomy on Instagram as well. He'll be posting a new story on what this is all about. His site goes live on Tuesday, so I'll remind you about that. So what we're doing is we're offering another Shoot the Moon contest for kids of all ages this time as well. The last time around went really well with the kids, so I want to try to offer that again this time around. So Cliff Valley Astronomy is sponsoring the contest. So the contest rules are going to be similar to the last few contests. Take a new picture of the moon. I don't want any pictures that have been already taken, because the idea really is to get you outside and take a look up at the moon and enjoy the view. So take a picture of the moon with any new picture with any device. Send your picture into astronomybythebay@gmail.com. Now, there is no judging ever. All entries are treated equally, so it doesn't matter how much you shake or how blurry your picture is, send it in anyway. The contest rules now for children 12 and under, though, is you submit a drawing of the same to the same address of what you might see if you were looking through a telescope. Maybe it's Mars, maybe it's the moon, maybe it's aliens. Whatever it is, flying saucers, that's fine. Prizes will be announced on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. I'll announce what we're giving for prizes. Contest starts on Wednesday night and continues until midnight on Saturday, April the 8th. And the draw will take place on our show on Sunday, April 9th. So good luck, everybody. Please send your entries in. We love to see them. And that's all we have for our photos. So I'll be making a post about that Tuesday or so, about what's happening on Wednesday. Okay. Now, how do I get out of these photos? It's away. There it is. Okay. I guess we're going to be closing out then. Right?
Yeah.
So I guess in closing then tonight, thanks again for your support. Special thanks, of course, to Kurt for joining us this evening with that wonderful talk. Kurt, thank you. We look forward to having you back again next month. We'll do another talk about our next spring constellation coming up. Our special thanks, of course, again, goes to Rosanna for her continued contribution to our program. Thank you, Rosanna. We really do appreciate it. Also, special thanks goes out to Trudy and all of you who continually share our program. We hope that those of you who have joined us from the local Rogers TV network enjoyed the program as well. If you would like more information about the wonders of the night sky, you can find me at astronomybythebay.ca. And remember, too, we do love getting your photos, so send them in to astronomybythebay@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to include them in our next broadcast. And please let your friends and family know as well that we will be back here next Sunday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook to edutain you on the wonders of the night sky. So for now then, from Kurt, Mike, Paul, and myself, we wish you a safe week. Lots of clear skies, everybody. Open your eyes to view the skies and keep your scopes pointed up. Good night, everyone. Some music, please. Mike, we had a question that somebody wanted to know, what was that standing over your left shoulder?
An alien?
That's it.
That's my buddy.
Buddy. Night, everyone.